Good day everyone, my name is Nor James Kinyabasla and today let's talk about the background study of Asian Development Bank. Asian Development Bank plays a crucial role in fostering economic and social progress across the Asia-Pacific region. However, its development projects face significant challenges, including political instability, economic fluctuations, natural disasters, and social disparities. The growing complexity of these challenges, particularly in light of climate change, the economic volatility, and social disparity, questions arise about the effectiveness of Asian Development Bank current risk management strategy. This study delves into this critical area, examining Asian Development Bank risk management practices against the backdrop of a challenging global landscape. The study utilized ISO 31000, a globally recognized framework for risk management, to assess ADB's approach. This framework provides a structured methodology for identifying, evaluating, and mitigating risk, enabling organizations to proactively manage uncertainties and capitalize on opportunities. The study aims to determine whether Asian Development Bank possesses the necessary strategies and expertise to effectively address both conventional and emerging risk. It seeks to contribute to the broader understanding of risk in international development and offer recommendations for improving Asian Development Bank's practices. The significance of this research lies in its potential to inform Asian Development Bank and similar institutions by providing empirical insights into ADB's specific approach to risk. The study can contribute to the ongoing dialogue about risk management in international development. And now, let's talk about the objectives of the study of Asian Development Bank. This study aims to assist ADB in managing and controlling unexpected events that could negatively impact its operations, particularly its financial resources. The study will focus on, first, identifying and evaluating risk, closely monitoring both internal and external factors that could affect ADB's financial operations. Second, prioritizing risk, clearly assessing the potential impact of risk on the organizations, allowing ADB to prioritize those requiring immediate attention. Third, mitigating risk, implementing controls to minimize or eliminate the negative effects of risk on ADB's financial resources, ensuring operational continuity and long-term sustainability. And lastly, monitoring risk, continuously tracking risk and their potential effects on operations, enabling ADB to adapt plans and strategies as needed. By strengthening ADB's financial stability and navigating financial uncertainties, this study aims to safeguard its financial resources, ensuring its survival and promoting economic growth in the Asia-Pacific region.
Risk identification. This set up stage for presentations and provide context for why risk identifications is critical for ADB. First is the foreign currency risk. The outcome is speculative. It can lead to gain or losses depending on exchange rate fluctuations. The scope is fundamental. Affects all institutions in the market due to external economic factors like government policy, international trade dynamics, and political stability. ASEAN Development Bank or ADB avoid foreign exchange risk in its operation by matching the currencies loaned with those of its borrowing or after swaps. However, Borrower using foreign currency may face increased debt service costs due to the exchange rate fluctuations, which do not directly affect EDB but could increase the borrower's financial strain. Second is liquidity risk. Outcome is pure. It represents a risk of losses without the potential for gain. It is affects all the organization's ability to meet short-term obligations. The scope is particular, unique to the specific institutions rather than the entire market, as it is arise from its internal operation and cash flow management. Asian Development Bank may face situations where its asset cannot be converted into cash quickly, enough to disburse loan or pay off debts. To mitigate this, ADB closely monitor its cash flow needs to maintain a buffer and liquid assets. Next is interest rate risk. Outcome is speculative. ADB can experience gain or higher profits when interest rates are favorable or losses when rates increase, reducing borrowing and lending activity. The scope is particular, specific to the institution's lending and borrowing activities and influenced by policy change, market conditions, and demand for credit. Changes in government policy or global economic conditions lead to fluctuations in interest rates directly affecting EDB borrowing costs. For example, higher interest rates in emerging East Asia have caused debt stress and bond defaults in some markets. Next is credit risk. The outcome is speculative. It can lead to either losses when borrowers default or gain when borrowers meet obligations on time of generating interest income. So the scope is particular. It affects individual borrowers or countries rather than the whole financial system, depending on their creditworthiness and economic conditions. ASEAN Development Bank has faced heightened non-performing loans, especially in regions impacted by the COVID-19 pandemics. For example, some Southeast Asia's countries struggle with debt obligations, causing direct financial losses for ADB. Next is default risk. The outcome is pure. It represents only the risk of loss with no possibility of gain. If a borrower defaults on its loan commitments, the scope is particular. Affects specific borrowers, especially large ones of substantial loans, which can significantly impact ADB of overexposed. A borrower like Indonesia faced financial shortfall due to the economic downturns, inflations, and political instability. This led to an inability to meet loan repayment, damaging ADB financial positions and reputations. Last is the market risk. The outcome is speculative. It reflects potential losses or gains due to the changes of market factors like interest rates, exchange rates, and other economic indicators. The scope is fundamental, influenced by broader economic conditions across the Asia-Pacific regions, affecting all market participants. ADB investment are exposed to market volatility, including interest and exchange rate fluctuations. For example, during the global financial crisis, growth rates dropped sharply, causing financial stress and challenging for developing Asia. Risk identification is vital for ASEAN Development Bank to maintain financial stability to ensure project success. The 6 key risks: foreign currency, liquidity, interest rate, credit default, and market risk, pose unique challenges. By understanding their outcomes, scope, and scenarios, ADB can proactively address this risk to protect its operations and support sustainability development across an Asia-Pacific region.
Foreign currency risk. The fluctuations in foreign currency values can have a moderate impact on Asian Development Bank's or ADB's financial statements, due to potential losses in foreign currency exchange. For example, if currencies depreciate against the ADB's reporting currency, it diminishes the value of the institution's internal asset and revenue streams, ultimately affecting its overall financial performances. Interest rate risk. Interest rate risk is driven by changes in government policies, leading to periodic fluctuation in interest rates. Central banks may adjust borrowing and deposit rates in response to factors like inflation or currency changes, directly impacting the Asian Development Bank's or ADB interest cost and lending rates. These fluctuations in rates affect financing costs, influencing the ADB's profitability and the viability of its lending programs. With a moderate impact, increasing borrowing costs due to rising interest rates can limit the ADB's ability to offer low-cost financing options to its borrowers. Liquidity risk. Liquidity risk is a concern that arises when a company's asset cannot be readily converted into cash to meet short-term obligations. This risk can materialize when assets are tied up in a long-term investment, especially during financial downturns or when cash flow needs exceed expectations. Such liquidity constraints may hinder the Asian Development Bank or ADB from promptly addressing urgent funding needs. The impact of liquidity risk on the ADB financial and operational aspects is moderate. Limited liquidity may lead to delays in fund allocation for project implementation, potentially jeopardizing project timelines or diminishing stakeholder confidence, thereby affecting the institution's reputation. Credit rate risk. Credit risk arises when borrowers fail to meet their financial obligations, leading to losses for lenders. This risk is more likely in uncertain economic conditions, prevalent in countries facing economic instability or market fluctuations. The Asia Development Bank or ADB faces increasing exposure to credit risk as the likelihood of loan defaults rises with external economic influences and declining borrower creditworthiness over time. The impact of credit risk is significant, causing financial losses and affecting the ADB's operations, hindering its ability to fulfill obligations and offer new loans to customers.
Default risk is a high risk. The probability of this risk is possible that may occur sometime. It is when the borrower will fail to fulfill its obligations. The case normally accompanies poor economic conditions, bad financial management, or a change in the market setting, where one may not generate the intended cash flow. The risk impact is major. ASEAN Development Bank's default can result in financial losses that can affect its shareholders and stakeholders. Market risk is also a high risk, as it is expected to occur sometime because of interest changes and fluctuations of foreign currency exchange. It may also be triggered by effects of the economy like inflationary pressure that shift borrowing costs. The impact of this risk is moderate, can affect the financial performance of ADB caused by increasing borrowing. This will then lower the profitability of the organization. What is risk response planning? The purpose of risk response planning aims to proactively manage identified threats and opportunities that may impact ASEAN Development Bank financial stability. These include identifying and analyzing, then developing strategies to reduce risk, utilize opportunities, and eventually reach desired results. In credit risk, ADB's risk response is risk reduction. To reduce the risk of borrowers defaulting on their loans, they must develop and complete their credit scoring model to score the borrower's creditworthiness. This may include specific action. First, the Credit Risk Management Division of ADB will develop a complete credit scoring model to score the credit risk of borrowers. Second, ADB loan officers will be intensively trained in the new credit scoring model and its use in the loan approval process. Third, there will be a strong system of credit monitoring of the borrower's performance. Credit Risk Management Division and Loan Officer are responsible in developing and implementing the credit scoring model and monitoring system and checks afterwards the repayment and financing status. ADB needs resources such as financial resources for developing and implementing the credit scoring model and monitoring system. It entails data analytics investment and technology investments, human resources for training the loan officer and running the credit monitoring process, technological resources in the development and maintenance of the credit scoring model and monitoring system, ensuring strong data security with compliance to the ADB standards. The implementation of the credit scoring model is within 12 months, trains the loan officers on new models within 6 months to gain more knowledge, and credit monitoring system must be implemented within 9 months. In interest rate risk, risk transfer is the risk response to lessen the possible losses caused by the fluctuation of interest rate and controls cash flow, maintains profitability and secure its revenue, mitigating the risk of interest rates by transferring this through third party. This requires making use of interest swaps to hedge against potential losses. In line with this are the specific actions. So first is Treasury Department should identify the interest rate hedging through interest rate swaps of the financial instruments, keeping in mind ADB's specific needs, and regularly analyze interest rate trends and probable effects on the financial position of ADB. Lead by Treasury Department and explore hedging options in regular interest rate analysis and Finance Department to track interest rate exposure with periodic interest rate trends. Financial, human, and technological resources are the needed resources in taking actions to manage the hedging strategies and monitor the efficacy of hedging, analysis of interest rate data, and management of hedging transaction. Within 6 months, it should explore its hedging options and begin initial interest rate analysis, specifically taking into consideration the special needs and constraints of ADB's portfolio. Hedging strategies are implemented within 12 months. There must be a step-by-step approach with strict monitoring.
In risk response planning, there are also liquidity risk, foreign currency risk, default risk, and market risk. I will also discuss the responses, specific actions, responsibilities, resources required, and timelines associated with each of these risks. So let's begin with liquidity risk. Liquidity risk occurs when there is not enough cash on hand to meet financial obligations. The ADB's risk response here is risk reduction. This involves ensuring positive cash flows, implementing a full liquidity management plan, and diversifying funding sources to reduce dependency on any particular one. So the specific actions are: first is managing cash flows efficiently to ensure liquidity remains positive. Second is developing a comprehensive liquidity management plan that includes maintaining cash reserves and accessing short-term financing. And lastly is diversifying liquidity resources to minimize reliance on a single funding source. And now, responsibilities are distributed across departments. So, the Treasury Department will develop and implement the liquidity management plan, while the Finance Department monitors cash flows to ensure constant liquidity. And the Operations Department ensures smooth working capital administration. So in terms of resources, the ADB will need financial resources for short-term funding and human resources including treasury and risk management experts and technological resources for tracking and managing cash flows. Finally, the timeline involves designing the liquidity management plan within 6 months and implementing it within 12 months through a phased approach. So the next risk is foreign currency risk, which arises from exchange rate fluctuations. The ADB's response is risk transfer. The goal is to protect its financial strength by using hedging strategies. The specific actions include first is using forward contracts, options, and other hedging instruments to mitigate foreign currency exposure. And second is continuous monitoring of exchange rate fluctuations by the Treasury Department. And lastly is the revising foreign currency transactions to balance risk mitigation with development objectives. And the responsibilities are as follows. So the Treasury Department will manage hedging strategies and conduct monthly currency analysis. The second is the Finance Department will review foreign exposure and monitor the impact of financial stability. And the Operations Department ensures effective management of foreign currency risk. And the resources needed include financial resources to purchase hedging instruments, human expertise for risk analysis, and technological tools to manage foreign currency data. The timeline involves exploring hedging options with 6 months and implementing strategies within 12 months. And for default risk, which happens when a borrower fails to meet their obligations, ADB's risk response here is risk reduction aimed at minimizing potential losses. Specific actions to manage this risk are first, establishing a credit risk management to assess borrowers effectively. Second, improving the legal framework of loan agreements in line with international best practices. And lastly, is developing an integrated collection strategy tailored to the unique circumstances of borrowers in developing countries. So the responsibilities are divided as follows. The credit risk management team implement risk management measures while the legal department reviews and updates loan agreements. And the collection department ensures timely collections in collaboration with other departments. And ADB will need financial, legal, and human resources for implementing these strategies. The timeline includes setting up the credit risk management system and strategies within 12 months. Lastly is the market risk, which stems from fluctuations in the market conditions. The ADB's response is risk reduction, aiming to minimize losses, safeguard capital, and ensure sustainable growth through diversification and strategic resource allocation. So the specific actions include first is conducting ongoing market research to monitor threats and opportunities, especially in emerging market and global economic conditions. Second is the investment committee will create a diversified portfolio to reduce risk and maximize returns while adhering to the ADB's development mandate. And lastly is adopting a risk management system focused on market fluctuations and adjust investment strategies to balance risk with development goals. So for the responsibilities are the investment committee oversees the evolution of implementation of investment strategies, and the finance department manages market analysis and reports timely updates to the investment committee. And while the operations department maintains the investment portfolio and ensures coordination among departments. And the resource required includes financial resources to manage investment, expertise in market analysis, and technological tools to process market information efficiently. So the timeline involves conducting market research and drafting an investment strategy within 6 months, followed by a phased implementation over 12 months.